Hello everyone, good evening and welcome back to the next session of Fingertips. Today we are going to study about the structure of heart. So we are going to start from a very basic level with the description of heart. What is heart? Suppose there is an example of the plumbing of your house, okay? So there are a lot of pipes and the water has to flow through all those pipes. In order to get the groundwater to your tap, you have a motor in your house. So that motor pumps the water from the ground level up till all of your house and also your tap. So that work is similarly done by heart in our body. Think of the plumbing in your house similarly as that of the circulation in your heart. The blood vessels are the pipes which are laid down all around, and the heart is the motor. This motor helps in spreading out the blood and keeping it flowing all throughout your body in those pipes, that is your blood vessels. So today we are going to study about the structure of the heart, how this pumping organ pumps the blood all throughout without any fail. So first of all, the heart is a muscular organ. It is a conical shape of organ which is situated in your chest, right in between your lungs. It is a little turned towards your left, so while palpating you can hear your heartbeat a little towards the left from the center. So this is the situation of the heart. Now all the muscles in the heart are the cardiac muscles. As you already must know that there are three kinds of muscles: the smooth muscles, the skeletal muscles and the cardiac muscles. The thing about the cardiac muscles is that they have especially structured in such a way so that they can pump together in a rhythm, and the contraction is so powerful so that the blood from the heart can flow through all the parts of the body, all the corners of the body without any delay. So we are going to go from outside towards the inside. So now, first of all, what covers the heart? See, heart is a delicate organ and we need to protect that organ. So there is pericardium. Peri means surrounding and cardium means related to heart. So the covering which is surrounding all of the heart is called the pericardium. Now, the pericardium has two layers. First one is a little towards the outside and not that much sticking to that of the heart, whereas the other one is tightly, compactly in relation to the heart. So the one which is towards the outside is called the parietal pericardium. The parietal pericardium is the one which is not as close to the heart, and there is a little space between the inner layer and the outer layer. So the outer layer is the parietal pericardium, while the inner layer, which is tightly in contact with the heart, is called as the visceral pericardium. Now, as I have told you, there is a space between these two layers of the pericardium. Now, what is this the space filled with? This space is filled with a shock absorbent fluid. That fluid is known as the pericardial fluid. Now this pericardial fluid actually is decreasing the friction between the two layers of the pericardium, and it also leaves out some space for the contraction and the relaxation of the heart. At the same point of time, it also works as a shock absorbent for the heart. So now, after the outside, we go towards the inside. So, as we know, that the human heart is a 4-chambered muscular organ. So, even though it is only the size of a fist, it has 4 chambers, and these 4 chambers are known as the upper chambers are called the atria, and the lower chambers are called the ventricles. Now, the heart is also divided into the left and the right part. Accordingly, we have the right atrium towards the right upper part of the heart, the right ventricle towards the right lower part of the heart, the left atrium towards the left upper part of the heart, and the left ventricle towards the left lower part of the heart. Let me tell you that this is a pictorial representation of the heart, and if you actually go there and study how the heart actually is, you won't see the atria and the ventricles all at the same time. You would have to see from different directions in order to see all the atria and the ventricles. So this is a simplification so that we can study the structure of the heart. Now, all these chambers are divided and separated by some septa and valves. So this is the right part and this is the left part. This is the right ventricle and this is the left ventricle. So this septa, which is dividing the two ventricles is the interventricular septa, which is dividing the left ventricle from the right ventricle. Similarly, when it goes upwards and separates the two atria, it becomes the interatrial septa. Now, there are walls which are separating the atria from the ventricles. These walls basically are for the ease of flow of the blood from the atria to the ventricles, but at the same time preventing the backflow of the blood from the ventricles to the atria. So these septa are atrio-ventricular septa because they are separating the atria and the ventricle. So they are the atrio-ventricular septa. Now, the left side of the heart contains only two septa. So this is the bicuspid valve or the mitral valve because it only contains two septa. Whereas the right septa contains three cusps. So it is known as the tricuspid valve and it is present on the right side of the heart. Now, there are also two semilunar valves. These semilunar valves are basically preventing the backflow of the blood from these great vessels back into the ventricle. So, if we have seen the circulation, the right ventricle contracts to pump the blood to the pulmonary arteries. So there is one semilunar valve at the base of the pulmonary arteries. Similarly, the left ventricle is pumping the blood to the aorta. So there is a semilunar valve right at the base of the aorta. Both of these semilunar valves consist three cusps. So now we are going towards the labeling of this whole diagram, and I will go through the diagram very quickly. So, as we have seen, this is the right atrium, this is the right ventricle, this is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. The arrows in the red show the flow of the blood from the heart to the different great vessels. Different great vessels, namely the vena cava, the pulmonary vein, the pulmonary artery, and the aorta. So, this is the vena cava. There are two vena cavas. Basically, the vena cava is the merging, the great vessel which is formed by the merging of all the veins of the body. So, all the veins from the upper part of the body merge together to form the superior vena cava. And all the veins from the lower part of the body merge together to form the inferior vena cava. However, both these vena cavas eventually drain the blood that they are carrying from the single passage to the right atrium. So right atrium is the part of the heart which gets all the deoxygenated blood from all of the body. So as you can see, the red arrows shows that the vena cava are pouring all their blood into the right atrium. So as the right atrium contracts, all this blood goes into the right ventricle. Now it's the chance of the right ventricle to contract. When the ventricle contracts, these valves are preventing the backflow of the blood, and because of the high pressure generated in the ventricle, the blood goes into the pulmonary arteries. So pulmonary arteries are basically taking the deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. The lungs are the organs where the exchange of gases takes place. So the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide goes to the lungs and comes back which is rich in oxygen instead of carbon dioxide, because the exchange of gases has already taken place in lungs. So now the pulmonary veins bring in the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium. So that means the left atrium contains the oxygenated blood. Now you must be wondering that why are there all their septa and these walls and everything. See, over the time we have evolved, okay, in such a manner that, as you can see, it is a single organ which contains both the oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood. And not only that, it is also getting the oxygenated blood, pumping the oxygenated blood, while also getting the deoxygenated blood and pumping the deoxygenated blood. So all these septa and the valves make sure that there is absolutely no intermixing of the oxygenated blood with the deoxygenated blood. So back to the left atrium, the oxygenated blood from the lungs has come to the left atrium. When the left atria contracts, which is basically with the contraction, the atria contract together and the ventricles contract together. So this all I am telling you is happening simultaneously. But here, in the particular topic, the point we are at, the left atrium contracts so that the blood goes to the left ventricles. The left ventricles further contract so that the blood goes from the left ventricle, this is the oxygenated blood. So the blood goes from the left ventricle to all of the body through the greatest artery of the body, that is the aorta. So now, as we have all understood all the chambers and the functions of the chambers, I would like to explain that what is it that prevents the valves, the atrioventricular valves from collapsing. So as you can see here, this which we can see are actually fibromuscular strings which are basically attached to these valves. They are chorda tendineae. So these chorda tendineae prevents the collapsing of the valves. Like suppose this is the valve and the blood is coming in and it opens. While the ventricle contract, if the pressure is so high that if there is nothing holding them down, they will go up and collapse towards upside, okay? So it will go up and be like this. So there should be something which holds them in place so that the valves do not go upwards because of the high pressure that is generated by the ventricles. So for that we have these fibromuscular strings which are attached to the valves, and they are basically preventing the valves to go back and open up into the atria, and they are basically holding the valves in their place. So they are called as the chorda tendineae. So this is the structure of the heart, and I hope you all have understood. And please read through your books today itself so that you understand everything and actually understand how this just small muscular organ can actually pump around 5 to 6 liters of our blood all throughout our body. So thank you, and if you like this video, please drop a like below, comment, or any of your doubts. I will be happy to have them, and share the video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.